I have Nailah, writer, artist, and community worker. Thanks for coming to the podcast today.
No, thank you for having me. It has been a long time.
Right, yeah, I know. We've been trying to make this happen. Like, I have the artwork, you have the calabash here, and I'm like, okay, how did you get into making art?
This is going to be so nerdy. I used to read a lot of manga and I really liked it and enjoyed it. And I was like, I want to draw this stuff. So I started sketching like the characters I'd see like on my walls. My parents were really upset, but I like draw and sketch on my walls. That's how I got good at it. And I would see things and people and be like, let me just see if I can copy this. So I used to sketch. That's how I started art, with just sketching. And then I completely, life goes by, you go to school, university, everybody's like, do this, do that. So I lost my art connection. And then
What did you study in school?
Psychology.
That's where the community work comes.
But no.
Why did you decide to do psychology?
Well, I come from South Sudan and we're refugees. So we came here. And when I was growing up, I noticed that my community had a lot of mental health issues, mostly because of, when you escape a war, when you live in such when you live in a refugee camp and you just grow up in these spaces, people come out really damaged.
There's so much trauma.
Yeah. So, drama. And just and when I was a kid, I knew that it wasn't really, not that I know, like they made their choices, but it's like, that it comes from a place of pain and a place of the experience in the world. So my idea was like, I'm going to become a psychiatrist for people who are refugees or have come from war-torn things. Very steep goal. I actually ended up dropping out because the psychology that was being taught to me was not reflecting the community values, or just was very white. It's very Eurocentric, and I was really frustrated with how it was being approached and taught. That I was like, you know what, this isn't the way I can help my people. It's not the way I can help people. There's another way.
It's funny you mentioned that, because there's this lady on Instagram I follow, and I think she's biracial. I don't know, but she identifies as black. Anyway, so and her whole thing is that what they are teaching doesn't reflect who she is, and she's kind of trying to change as much as she can. But when there's an uphill battle, but she's doing the most she can. So when you mention it, I'm like, holy shit. I mean, I don't study it, so obviously, yeah. And then did you pivot to do something else, or?
Well, then I just got kind of wrapped into working. So I was just in the world, just working odd jobs, working at shitty jobs, just doing things. And then I just somehow stumbled into community and facilitating. Meeting with people, learning more about what the real world really was. Because honestly, with the schooling that I was taught, because I came here when I was 7, grew up in the school system, I realized everything that I knew was either a partial truth or an outright lie. So, and I was really frustrated and very mad. And I was like, no, I need to know what's actually happening in the world. Like, what is why is the world the way it is? But now from people and from the world, from the real world. So I just stumbled through community, working and talking with people, working here, working there, doing this job here, this odd job there. And that kind of somehow stumbled me into facilitation with this place called the Tanamagush Center. Have you heard of it?
No.
It's a center out past Truro. And there, I learned a lot about how adult learning actually is. So it's I won't say a radical approach, but it's a different approach to how adults learn and how we can teach adults, not necessarily to be better people, but how can we kind of unlearn can I swear? The bullshit.
Yes, you can.
Okay. The bullshit that we're taught, what does it actually mean to be in community together? What does it mean to be together? What does it mean to learn and try to be better? What does it mean to kind of live on this land and work together? All that stuff. So I learned a lot there, and then it's just been a domino effect of here I am here learning about this and doing this work, and now I'm doing here. And I was involved a lot in the organizing work that was happening during 2020. And that kind of also just spiraled me into now I'm in it. I'm in the streets, I'm in with people, I'm talking with people, I'm connecting with people on a real level. And it's just kind of been a roller coaster of here I am, here, there, whatever. That's why I say community work, because that kind of work, because that encompasses everything from art, creating art spaces, creating book clubs, to creating protests and showing up for other communities or showing up for in certain places, standing together. It just encompasses all that work.
Why is it important to you?
Why is that important to me? Because I think that's the future. I don't think we really have much of a choice for like the longevity and the survival of even say here in Mi'kma'ki, like our survival is tied to how we relate and connect with each other. So how we learn and connect to each other is really important to me because I want to live first, and I also want other people not to suffer. And I find the capitalism, colonialism, imperialism, all that has led us to this point where we're all kind of suffering collectively. So to me, it's important because I want to learn the skills for how I can show up and be better in my communities in the world. And also hopefully other people want that too. So that's kind of why it's so important to me that this is what I'm learning and practicing and trying, or at least trying to practice. But also why I'm kind of all over the place because I feel like there's a gap in all of our skill sets and how we can be together just because of what we've learned through capitalism, colonialism, being in a very Eurocentric model of community, if you can call it that. Yeah.
So community comes up a lot. What does that word itself mean to you?
Community to me is actually not as complicated as it may be in a textbook. To me, it's just how I exist in relation to other people. So I have multiple communities. So I live in multiple different places. And my community isn't just stuck to where I live right now. Like where I live in Dartmouth is not, I don't really consider that my community because I don't have a relation to people around me. But like my community is the places and people that I see and interact with and want to support in whatever way I can. So that's like my very not great definition of community, but it's just how I relate to people and how I show up for other people around me.
Okay, we'll put a pause and we'll come back to that. Let's talk about your art.
Oh, yeah, you can talk
So
about
I have
that.
these three pieces you came with, and I want to talk with this. Like, I'll talk about the God last, but let's talk about this.
Yeah, so this is my first attempt at an actual portrait. This is actually a random person on Twitter who I had just been interacting with. Their name is Lace. And they just posted this picture and I was like, oh my God, they look so beautiful and gorgeous. And I love the folds of the dress or the top that that person was wearing. And I'm like, I want to paint it. So I like sent them a message saying, hey, can I paint you? And they're like, yes, please go ahead. And I said, please don't like judge. It's my first time trying to do a portrait. I just really want to paint you. And then this is the result of the painting.
How long did it take to make?
Actually, this didn't take me too long. I think it was a week because I was really like I put an expectation. I was like, I'll have it done in a week. So I'm like, oh, I better have this done in a week. So it took me only a week to do. Though I've come back multiple times to like add highlights and fix because it's oil. And the great thing about oil is you can kind of come back every time and do something different to it.
Why?
Why?
Like it doesn't fully dry, or
it does fully dry for some time, but it takes a long time for it to really fully dry. And like to me, when I use oil is not forgiving, but it allows you to keep trying over and over again. Like I can paint if I wanted to, I can paint over this entire thing with something completely different, and you wouldn't even see the back.
Yeah, because like in all those, Da Vinci Code, they'll be like, oh, there's a painting under the painting
exactly.
and stuff.
Yeah, so like with oil painting, it's so amazing in that like you can really keep adding to it and adding to it. Like I could keep painting this and making it this. The better I get at painting, actually, the better this piece will get.
So, since this is your first oil, you've been painting with acrylic? Is that
no? Actually, I never painted much. I was really bad with color. All my sketches were black and white because I was scared of color.
But like it's manga though, right? Like that's
manga's black and white though.
It is?
Yeah, it's mostly like if you get like the really good quality, then it is, it's in color. But like I was reading like Shonen Jump and like old school like magazine. The cover is in color, but everything is black and white.
Right.
So I was like, oh, I can do this, and I could do it. And I was afraid of color until literally last year when I was in heat waves through eye level. And I'm like, you know what? Like, it's time to stop being afraid.
Why is color scary?
Because it's always going to mess up. Like, it's easy to mess up. I find with color, you need to learn how does this color work with this? I don't want to make this muddy. I want to make this brighter. With oil, too, I don't even know why I picked oil. I should have just went with acrylic because acrylic is a lot easier to work with. But there's something about oil that just makes it more vibrant. And I was like, I'm in love with the oil paintings I see. I want to use oil paint. And it was so, like, when I first made this, it was terrible. I was frustrated and I really almost gave up the first couple of tries because I was so like, I don't know how to do this. It doesn't make sense. But I think with oil, like I said, it's not forgiving, but it allows you to keep trying. So I just kept trying. I'm like, you know what? There's a phrase that people use, say, about how like your first attempts are going to be ugly, so just accept it. Accept that your first 2-3 layers are going to be shit. It's going to be terrible, but just keep going, keep trying, and I think that's the great thing about oil. It's rewarding when you persevere with it.
Mm-hmm.
So this is like the finished product, kind of. Like I said, I'm gonna go back probably about four times before I send it off to Lace.
Oh, you're gonna send it to
I'm
them?
sending it. Yeah, yeah. I was like, you know what? Might as well. Like,
okay, okay. So I mean, you knew you wanted to do it in a week. What is the process to make this?
You paint the background first. So I usually take a day where I just paint backgrounds because I learned, because I'm a self-taught artist. So I Googling and like looked on Instagram, like how do I paint? And the thing I was taught was you make the background first because the background adds actual life and color to the piece.
What is your background? White?
Yeah, usually white, but this is white, but this is before I learned that you're supposed to paint with another color. So usually if I'm painting now, it'd be like a color, usually orange, because I love the way orange looks with like brown skin. Because I my models right now are only like black and brown people, so orange looks really beautiful. Blue looks really beautiful with brown paint. So that's my process, and then I'm like, what do I see? What picture did I see on Twitter? Who do I see in my life that like I'm like, wow, that picture looks great, and then I kind of sketch it out, and then attempt to paint it, and it always sucks the first 3 times, and then
they just keep painting.
Yeah, and then you keep going and keep going, keep going.
So okay, I mean, I guess that is part of the practice and the experimenting that made you realize you prefer orange and blue. Is that?
Well, I think it's not even that I prefer it. It's just what I do.
Oh, okay.
Because I'm still learning. I'm sure I'll fall in love with green and be like, okay, now it's just green, nothing but green or whatnot. So orange is blue is just what I've seen. So I'm going with that.
Okay, so this one
That's
is
my first painting ever.
Huh. Okay, what is the story here?
This is through
because this is like
it's a bit futuristic.
Yeah, it's like a freaking album cover, man.
Is it?
Yes, seriously. I'm like, I would listen to this record. I don't even need to know what's on it. Yeah.
Well, this is actually a painting. There is a story behind this. This is a painting of Mary Magdalene. So if you ever Google search Mary Magdalene, and it's kind of creepy because what they did, the Catholic Church, is they actually took her supposed head, and put it in this gold encasing. So her head is somewhere in the Vatican or somewhere in Europe. I don't know. Just there, just a head in a case in this weird futuristic. It looks like a suit, a gold astronaut suit, and that's so.
Mary Magdalene is the person that washed Jesus' leg, right?
Yeah. So that's her. So they, when she was alive, or at least in canon, when she was alive, they condemned her, didn't like her. She was a whore. She was this. She was that. But after whatever years, she
became a saint.
Yeah, she became a saint. And I guess the reward for that was they were going to take her head and put it in this weird case. And I was kind of mad. I was pissed. I was like, you quite literally fucked with this lady. You beheaded her. You fucked with this lady for her whole life. She was the only one that stood by Jesus' side in your story. And you don't even let her rest in peace. I was so upset. I was like, this is an abomination. I was like going on a rant about the Catholic Church for a long time after that. And
man, there's so much.
There's so much bullshit they've done.
Okay. So we're on the same page on that. Yeah.
So this is her. I put her head back in her body because she would usually, I don't know what the exact technical word is at their time, but whatever like cloth she'd wear with herself. This is what I put her back in. And in the back is, and of course I put her skull because I'm like, this is how she would be if she was actually in the casket, dead, like probably put to rest. And then the background is binary code, and it just means death and rebirth. Because to me, I'm like putting her back into the cycle of death.
No, the binary code, what does it say? Is that what it says?
It says death and rebirth over and over again. I was obsessed.
What is the number? Like 0111. It's
so it's kind of like the alphabet where like the binary code is, one, an A would be like, actually, I don't know, I can't figure out. It's been a while since I did this, but like A would be like 0110. Like it'd be like a
so
set
you do
of,
DEA,
Yeah, exactly. But like, so the binary code. So that's the binary code that's in the background. And it's my kind of reflection to be like, she's now back into the cycle of death and rebirth. Fuck you, Catholic Church, for taking her out of that and doing what you did to her. And this is my way of kind of giving her.
See, I told you, if that was a record, imagine, like, if you're an artist and that's the concept for the album, You're gonna make some killer songs, man. You know,
I mean, yeah,
you're gonna
actually.
make a song about when like Jesus was like getting betrayed. That's on
Yeah.
track. When they were like, "Oh, fuck Mary Magdalene," and they were like, "Oh, sorry, you're a saint now." That's actually the title of one of the songs on the record. You're a saint now.
Yeah,
But
you're right.
anyway, and then the title of the album is actually Death and Rebirth. I mean, come on, man. Who would want to listen to that? How long did it take you to make this one?
That one took me a month. A month. Because this is when
This
I
is also oil too.
yeah, this is when this is the first time. So I was so mad. I was like, that this is not working out. This blending took forever. I'm like, I don't know how to blend oil. It didn't make sense. I'm like, highlights. I don't know. It was so frustrating. I didn't even finish it. I might even go back because like this whole thing was supposed to be a robe, and it just doesn't. It looks like a robe, but doesn't look like how I want it to be. So it took me a month. I was so mad.
So, I ask artists and, creators this thing, like, how do you know when he's done? You
You
know?
don't. That's the thing about oil. You don't. Oil, I like a painting can never actually be done. And if you are not careful and you're a perfectionist like I am, you're gonna keep looking and be like, oh no, I can fix this a little bit. Like, oh no, let me put a little highlight there. Or maybe I should blend. Like that's kind of the nature. Like when you see the next painting, that one is unfinished because I just kept
Okay,
going.
let's get to it then. Oh, I love the hair.
It took me some time. Yeah, so this one literally, if I show you the first rendition, you would not believe it's the same painting.
So the first rendition was also on this
The
canvas,
same
right?
canvas, and I was like, fuck this. I don't
So
like this.
when you're like, fuck this, do you just now paint on it or
No,
what do you
I
do?
mean, with this one, I was frustrated. I just like put paint all over, and I'm like, this is gross, and I just like covered it. I mean, there's still like the outline of the face and everything. So then I went back again, and I think I used one of my photos as a reference. I'm like, oh, no, let's look again at the photo I used. Let's change this. It's not me anymore. Let's
Mhm.
like add different things, and that's kind of where this came. And I really was playing around with like the highlights and the different colors and cool tones and stuff. Like this is when I was like, okay, time to go back and read and watch more things. And because of that, it kind of helped transform it to what it is now.
What is the story behind this one?
I wanted to again it's another portrait, and it was a photo I wanted to make of myself. I think it was for Valentine's Day or something. And I was like, let me try making this. This will be my first self portrait, and it's not me anymore because I just transformed to somebody differently. So that's the
Mhm.
story behind it. It's supposed to be a self portrait, and I wanted flowers, and this is actually the first attempt I did at flowers. So I'm like, because I don't know how to make paint flowers. Let me try with this canvas, and you can tell it's unfinished because this is all not flowers. It's supposed to be like a bouquet, and the afro was supposed to be like part of the display of the bouquet. So it's the unfinished painting, and I kept going back and back and back and back. So I put it away, being like, "This is your perfectionism is showing. Like you need to relax. You can't just keep changing this painting."
Will you finish it or?
Probably, I will. Now that people see it, I'm gonna finish it. Yeah, now that people see it, I will finish it because I
Oh my
wanted to give it
God.
as a gift to somebody. So yeah.
It's gonna be you are painting your wait.
I don't paint to sell because I'm not good yet enough to be confident to be like, yeah, $300. Give me $300 for this.
I need to honestly. I think I need to do a class about this thing because I noticed it, especially here in Nova Scotia, like Halifax.
Yeah.
People create amazing things and they'll say the price. I'm like, what?
I I know it's because I also have a business and I also struggle with pricing my things properly.
Mm.
But I feel like it's because here in the city, we know Nova Scotia is a province that is struggling a lot and has struggled since so long. Like we have the highest taxes, highest this. We're struggling in so many ways. So I almost feel like to price this at like $500 or whatever, that it would truly be the price if I had to calculate per square per whatever the measurement is with the paint with my time. These paintings would be expensive. Like even just flat out, even without accounting my experience. So to me, I'm like, no, that's not fair.
Why?
Well, I'm like, who's gonna buy this painting?
The people that want it though.
Hey, I mean, if somebody's out there and sees the painting, it's like, give me a price. Like, give me a price. But right
No,
now,
so here's what I say. My thing is like, I mean, obviously you have something you are doing that is taking care of like the rent and all that stuff, but like the time you put into this thing is time you are not going to get back, right?
That's true.
So I mean, I won't feel bad. the worst thing the person is gonna say is no, like that's too
That's
much for me.
true.
I'm like, okay, cool.
That's
I'll
true.
just do you a little small card and then I'll
I think also people undervalue homemade stuff too. And
no
I mean,
man.
not only just the artists, but like I think even people in general.
What I've noticed is here's the thing though. When you go to a store, just imagine you going to a store, same thing, same shoe, same made in the same place. Oh, actually, there was a video where I think Target or one of these like
Oh,
places.
Payless?
Yeah.
I saw that too.
That is it. That is what I'm telling you. So if you just see the price, the human mind says, "Oh fuck," because of that price, that is good quality, and it might not be, but just because of the pricing.
Yeah.
So man, if I could even make something that looks like this,
Okay. I mean, look, I'm new. I'm
Fair
new to
enough.
the art world. Like
Fair
literally,
enough.
it's my first year. I'm like, oh, I'm doing art, like really for real. So
Yeah.
I'm like,
What do you love about creating art, though?
I like the challenge. I like to challenge myself. So when I was learning oil, I'm like, this is going to be hard, but I want to be good at this. So I love the act of making something. I also like just the act of making. Like it's like I like making beautiful things, especially with my hands. To be able to say like I did this, like I made this is what I love about art. But also like not people like art, so I'm like I like to do things that people like too. Kind of weird, but it's like if people enjoy this art and they see meaning behind it, that also makes me feel good as well.
Okay, let's take a tangent. One of the community work you do is sex education. Why is that important? How do you do that?
Sex education. So I'm not like a qualified sex educator. It's actually really. It's not that it's hard, but the certifications are kind of ridiculous. They're expensive and they're kind of ridiculous.
In what way?
In that like. You could be doing this work. Actually, I'll give an example. There's a person that that has come to. So I work at Venus Envy, sex shop, and a bookstore.
I love the rocket, man. Like the rocket. I love that rocket. I'm like, someone should make a toy that looks like that.
Actually, hey, I'm not gonna say too much, but that might be in the works.
Okay.
Yeah, so in that space, I've been doing sex education. And by sex education, I mean teaching people how to have better sex, safer sex, navigate resources, find out what they like, get into this, get into that. Like, it's been a lot of years of this much work, like at least 7+ years of this. The sex educator certificate will look at that and say, that's nothing. That's nonsense. You need to get a certification. Even though the certification will literally be me saying, I already know this stuff from my own work and my actual physical experience talking with people about sex. And there's also another person too who works in Toronto, Luna Matatis, who's an amazing sex educator. She's been doing sex education for like 15 years, but they wouldn't let her call herself a sex educator until she got the certification.
That's all.
Yeah. And she's amazing. Yeah. She's so good at her work. And it's like they didn't recognize her as being valid until she got that piece of paper that was like, I think it was like 10,000. It's a ridiculous amount of money just for her to be like, I already know all this stuff. I just told you what I know. And of course I'm going to pass because I already know all this stuff. So that's why you like technically can't call myself a sex educator legally. Like I couldn't like have a class and say, I'm a sex educator and I did this. I can be like, oh, I do sex education and I call myself a sex educator, but I tell people I'm not qualified. So that I don't have any
so they won't be like,
where's your certification? So that's kind of the nonsense with, I think it's just with institutions in general, where you need that piece of paper to like qualify you within the eyes of the state, which is ridiculous in many ways. Of course, there's certain things that we would like people to have certification for, but I'm like, sex education, I think there should be a little more wiggle room, or at least ways that people can get this piece of paper without having to like pay so much money. It's so inaccessible to people like me or to folks that I know and work with who are great and amazing sex educators, but can't even advertise that.
That's some bullshit.
It is bullshit.
So while keeping the bullshit aside, why is sex education important to you and part of your community work?
Yeah, so sex education is super important to me. Mostly because of seeing just how much we're all suffering sexually. And I don't mean like we're not having great sex, but it's like the ways in the shop when I talk with customers and talk to people who, workshops or whatnot, what I'm noticing is there's a huge gap between what we learn in school versus what's actually happening in our bedrooms, versus what's happening in our relationships, with our friendships. Like there's a very large gap between what we envision because of porn and because of just the sexual education we get from informally to what we actually want and what we actually enjoy in life. So for me, it's if I can, it's important to me because I want to bridge that gap to be the middle person that's like, what do you want? How can we help
Mm,
you figure out what you want in what's going to fulfill you sexually or non-sexually? Some folks come and realize they actually don't want sex, but because of the conditionings that we have about sex, they feel like they have to compulsorily have
mm,
sex. If I can be that middle person that helps you figure out what will give you pleasure and make you have an enjoyable life, whether it's sexually or not, that's like amazing to me. I get so happy because to me it's like life is sucks in many ways. The least we can have is some good sex.
right, right,
The least we
right.
can have is pleasure in
Mm,
other ways that really don't need money. You can have sex by yourself. You can have sex with other people, and that usually doesn't cost much.
mm,
It's one of those like low ways of accessing pleasure that is actually important for our mental health and our health in general. So it's super important that we at least in some way either recognize that there's a gap and there needs to be filled with new information, or we figure out we don't want sex, and that also gives us pleasure as well. There's
mm.
like, yeah, so it's just one of those things that I'm very passionate
Yeah,
about.
it's true you mentioned that because I was watching this video and this, it's like psycho whatever therapy. Anyway, amazing lady. She was talking about relationships and it's like what you need to do in a relationship. You need to have sex, you need to cuddle, and you need to do novel things, that new things together.
Mm,
Like if you do those three things. Oh, and you should also not resent. Not resent. Was it like resent? Like if you don't resent, I don't maybe not resent, but basically just four really easy things you could just do and keep your relationship alive. I'm like,
mm,
oh wow. And if you think about it, if you just like meet those kind of, I mean, obviously the other things, but having these core things in place is great. And being like a woman of color doing this thing, it's also like, kind of like taboo.
it is. It's
How do you
heavily.
navigate that?
I don't. That's what it is. Well, I say okay. I don't tell people what I do.
Mm,
Like it's really hush hush within my community. I'm like, look, you don't need to know. I work at a bookstore, and I mean, if they listen to this, I'll find out I don't. But for the most part, I'm like, no, I just work at a bookstore and call it a day because there is such a taboo, especially with the way religion. Again, it's going to be. I mean, I want to say no hate, but all hate to the Catholic faith and that like the way that they've kind of have people on a chokehold around sex.
hmm.
If I would even say that I have sex is a big deal. Sex before marriage, big deal. Like, it's still a big deal to this day. And the big age of 2023, we're still struggling with people even saying that they have sex. So
Mm.
it's for me, navigating is being really cautious and careful about the spaces I'm in. What am I saying that may tip people off that I am more sexually aware or active than they might not approve of? Because in many ways it can be met with violence,
Wow.
can be met with like many different things. Just because of people make assumptions that if you have sex or enjoy sex, that you're obviously want sex all the time,
Mm.
or that you obviously aren't going to come. Like if I get assaulted, it's my fault because I am advertising that I
Yeah,
like
that's some
sex.
bullshit.
It is bullshit. It's part of like rape culture and all that stuff. It's also why I like
Mm.
talking about sex and communicating because there's a big gap between even us talking about like what does it mean, like what is sexual assault, what is rape. All these things are really important to talk about,
Mm.
and people like the way we blur the lines between consent and non-consent, and even just the global perspective about like what is a sexually liberated person in contrast to like I'm going to say again the Catholic Christian kind of religious perspective on sex.
Mm.
It's important that we kind of break down those walls and barriers. I mean, if people want to believe that faith and believe what comes along with the perspective on sex, it's all power to their do your thing. But it's the
Mm-hmm.
imposing on other people that's the issue. So when I come into the shop and talk to people, it's like a lot of it is just telling them it's okay. If you like sex, it's okay. If you don't like sex, it's okay. If you like this, it's okay. There's no, if you want to have a moral perspective on it, sure, it's within your right to, but you don't have to. It feels compulsory because we do live in a very, Catholic, Christian kind of society all over the world, right? Because they kind of took over almost all of it.
I mean, and it's crazy because it's those people that are kind of like, hey, look at this, that are like doing even the
Yeah.
darndest things.
And it's wild, right? Because most of it is projection or control. Because really, when you think about like controlling somebody's sexuality, it is about control.
Mm,
You want to tell them and dictate to them how they should be, not allowing people the liberation, the freedom to choose what they want. So a lot
mm,
of this, like when I say I'm a sex educator, it's mostly about like giving people the permission. It's so funny how many times I'm like, oh, you want a toy? Sure, awesome. Let's get you something. That welcoming environment almost lets them like let go of the bullshit and like the weight of like I shouldn't even want sex. I shouldn't even think about this. I shouldn't even think about fantasies. Oh no, only this way. This is the only way sex can be thought about and done. So a lot of it's just giving people like or taking away that burden and being like, no, you don't don't take that bullshit in here. Let that shit go. We're in this space. We like, what do you need? Let's work together to figure out what it is that will make you happy and make
Fuck
you feel
yeah.
good.
Yes, because sex is freaking amazing. Yeah, I'm serious, like it is. Okay, so this is a new thing. I know you're like, it's a prototype. I don't want to talk about it, but
Yeah.
I can't let it go. We need to talk about it. What is the story here?
So this is actually from a bigger project. Bigger
Look at you.
project.
Yeah.
I was through, or I'm still going through. What is it called? Who is it for? Heist. Heist is a local organization that does art, cool art stuff. They have a project called Lucid, which is about bringing together queer artists and doing a program or doing something together over 6 months. I think it's 6 months. So my project was about creating or reconnecting with my ancestral like ideas and ideas and concepts around communal living. How do we used to live together before colonialism,
Everything.
before imperial? What worked? What worked for us, and what can I somehow bring to this future and merge the past with the present and get rid of the bullshit that obviously comes along with living in a patriarchal society? What can I bring to the future that I think would be important for us as not only my community, but the larger community to kind of see either reflected in other communities or just reflected in general in society.
Mhm.
So my idea was to do with gourd art. So gourd and calabash and all that stuff are an art style that is like a functional piece of art. Gourds are, a piece of, I guess you can call it a fruit that matures, and when it dries, it turns into something that can be used as a vessel. You
Mhm.
can make spoons, cups, like drinking gourds.
Yep. That's the one I know it as. Because like in my country, in my tradition, you put palm wine in here and you drink.
Yeah. So we call it merti. Merti is our beer. So we make our own beer, and this is what would be put in it, or water. But they each have special like decorations to let you know, oh, this gourd is only for this, or this is only for
Right.
this. So the communal idea is telemete or lulu, which is like a communal defense. It's an idea that we are all interconnected and we come together to fight together. So if you're in this village down the road and you're in trouble, you say this phrase, and that's a rallying cry for us here down the street to come to your defense. And then, we figure out what's happening and we do what we need to do, which is either we take something back, we fight back, or we figure out what's lost. It's like a phrase for kind of bringing the sense of unity. Even if we're not from the same place, we don't practice the same things, we do understand that there's an idea that our survival is shared, and therefore when you need help, I help you. When I need help, you help you. So this is supposed to represent telemete, which is people coming together to defense of other people. So that's the story behind the gourd.
Let's go kill those motherfuckers. Let's go. I'm not gonna say what I said, but anyway, here, talking about this, something came to me while you were saying that. I was like, you've been here since you were 7. So how did you like
How did I?
get all this, I guess information, cultural education?
Actually, I didn't. This is all new. It's actually, I grew up without any connection
Right.
because we came here when I was in the late 90s. Honestly, there wasn't a lot of African people that came here. So we were one of the first few, especially from my area. We were actually the first people to leave our area, like outside of the neighboring area. So all of it, we were the first people to leave. So we just survived, which is like assimilation.
Wow.
So I lost my languages. The name Cecilia is the name I use, but that's actually just the Catholic name that was given to me when I was baptized. I actually have 2 other names because we have a whole cultural tradition around names. So I had to learn how to be Cecilia and learn how to be this person who is assimilated into Canadian culture. So I actually lost everything. I lost the connection to my culture. I don't even understand the language anymore. All the stuff that like I knew so well before I came here. Like from the age of 7, I had like 4 languages and could speak them all well. Came here, gone, because I had to learn how to survive. And being very dark skinned in a very white world where there wasn't a lot of immigration at the time too, it was like I had to survive, and surviving meant erasing almost part of who I was to survive in this world. So but the past, since my 20s, in my early 20s, I say when I 21, when I entered university and realized everything was bullshit and I'd been taught everything wrong and anything that I knew was probably from a skewed lens, I was like, I need to get back everything. So my whole life from like 21 to now, I'm like 29 now, was 8 years of like fighting to remember and to recall and to talk with my community members, to bring back ideas and concept, pretty much to revive the culture, because it's not just me that's gone through this. A lot of people all over from where I'm from has just lost a lot, and it's just the nature of colonialism. You know, they tell you that who you are is bad, therefore you have to learn these people's ways of being. So it's been like
Wow.
a huge
Okay,
revival.
so that how, I mean, God, I can't even imagine it. Okay. I think we have a part two. We have to have a part two. But because like I have so many questions, I'm like, oh. So I'm gonna let you go with this one now. You do all these things, you know, you're giving it a community, you're doing all that. But I mean, you can't pour from an empty cup, right? How do you take care of yourself? How do you fill yourself up so you can create and you give as much as they're giving?
That's I can't. Like, no, to be really honest, I'm struggling a lot with that because of like capitalism, right? Like I either sacrifice the comfort of having food and housing and stuff to work a lot and suffer, because I actually am not a good I don't do well in actual working in a space. I get tired because I feel like I have to perform a lot, especially in like a very white center. Like when I serve like white spaces and I have very majority white people, there's a lot of contorting and changing who I am to be palatable, just because of the misconceptions around. Oh, just because of anti-blackness, right? The projection of me as a person and what people kind of get from seeing me. And I'm very well aware because I grew up here, so I know how people view me and how I'm scary, I'm this and that. It's just the nature of being a Black person. So I have to really reduce and contort myself to fit those spaces, and it's exhausting. So after I work, I'm done. I don't want to do anything. I just want to sleep, recover, try to recover, go back to work.
Right.
So that's been the nature, but I took some time to do art and I'm feeling more myself. But now I'm like, money. Now, like, I can't do the things I used to do. Art supplies cost money. Art costs money. What can I do to have more spaces? So I'm trying to like right now balance it out. But I think as everybody is getting fed up with the way capitalism is kind of draining and kind of killing every ounce of humanity in all of us, I'm hoping for the revolution so that we can no longer have to deal with this bullshit.
Oh my
we
God.
can all finally like rest and decide, you know, we can have artists, real artists again, where we support each other, where people can be an artist and, you know, be fine and not have to worry about rent and just keep doing what they're called to do. People can do what they want without the pressure of creating profits for people who don't even care about it, or who are destroying literally the earth. So I'm waiting for that moment to finally come, but until then I'm just going to be struggling with like burnout and then feeling good and taking breaks and just having to navigate and balance it. It's just a nature, I think, of being an artist, especially being a Black artist. Like, we do not have the same opportunities or access to things, so we have to almost fight tooth and nail. So I know I'm fighting, just like I know all my friends and all my other artists, people that I know are just also doing the same thing. We're all hustling. We all have 5 different jobs. So that's how we survive right now until we can find that space for us. But that's also why that Black Artist Initiative is a thing.
Okay. I said that was the last question. So let's make that one. But before you go, I guess you have to touch on the Black Artist Initiative.
The Black Artist Initiative is a group of 4 Black artists. We came together 4 months ago because we were fed up. Same thing. We're fed up. We don't have spaces. We don't have access to materials. We don't have anything to really sustain ourselves as artists, or even to make connections and build an artist community. So we decided that we were going to make a space together, and we talked with Wonderneath. So our space is at Wonderneath, and we meet once a month to come together and do art together, whether it's facilitated or not, whether it's catering or not. We're just trying our best to create those spaces where we can actually also talk about what it means to be Black and being an artist, talk about ourselves and what we do, and also just make connections and do some cool art together. Yeah, just kind of... like an oasis in the amidst the nonsense of the world.
Right. Oh my God, it's freaking amazing to talk to you. And like I said, we have to have a follow-up on this. But I just want to say thank you for giving me your time, and thank you for sharing so much of yourself.
No, thank you. It's actually been really fun. Really enjoyed it. Thank you.